All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I told a few neighbors. I was walking this area earlier today. I've been going to various parts of the island, and I told a couple of neighbors I'd be here. They really spread the word. So I thank you all for coming back, because it is important that we are here in strong numbers and that we make it clear that we need to get our president to issue an emergency declaration, which I want to give you just an update on the process. And that's really the purpose of us coming here today, is so everyone understands what the process is, what we need from the governor and the president of the United States for us to try to move forward here and help obtain some FEMA assistance for the community. And I'm really happy to be joined by Councilman Joe Borelli. I'm happy to be joined by Councilman Steve Mattio's Chief of Staff David Carr. I'm happy to be joined by Borough Hall. We have Deputy Borough President Ed Burke. We also have Anthony Reinhardt for Senator Lanza. The senator and our state representatives, the majority of them are in Albany or in transit back from Albany because they had an extraordinary session last night. And so that's why they're not present. But I wanted to just say that this morning, obviously this storm was not expected. The magnitude of the damage was not expected by anyone. And so it really hit Staten Island and the rest of the city by surprise. Sadly, there were deaths across our city. Want to thank our law enforcement, our first responders. I saw the NYPD earlier all over towing cars, people who have to leave their cars wherever they were because the flood waters were so high. So thank you to our NYPD, as always, for the amazing work that you do.
You forgot FDNY.
I said I'm getting there, don't worry. All our emergency services. And actually, when I was on this block, we saw the FDNY here. But all our civil service workers who are out there, the bus drivers as well, who did an amazing job getting people out of subway stations and into other areas. But this morning, I had called for a emergency declaration from the President of the United States to include Richmond County. I don't have the authority to do that as a member of Congress, but the governor of the state of New York does, and we've been in communication with the governor's office, and the governor is putting forward that information to put in a formal request with the president. So you know, the governor of the state is the one and the only one that has the authority to put in an emergency declaration request with the President of the United States. That is in the process, and it should be completed probably by 8 p.m. or so this evening. The issue is that there needs to be assessments done of the damage, the extent, to make the strongest case possible for the governor to make that case to the president, so then the president can do it. I understand that the governor and the president have already spoken, that we intend to receive that authorization. I've been speaking with FEMA, so everyone's being mobilized and prepared to assist. We're also working with my colleagues here in New York and in New Jersey to urge the president to immediately grant that declaration. One of the things that I want to make clear that is incredibly important, and I just reiterated this to the governor's office, we must include the individuals and households program in that declaration, okay? You know, there are various aspects to an emergency declaration and what kind of programs an aid we could qualify from FEMA. One, of course, would be the immediate recovery costs associated to the municipality, right? We have all these emergency agencies, as we mentioned, they're working overtime. There's a lot of expenses involved to the city and the state related to recovery. So that would be one part of this. The second part of this would be infrastructure funds. As you know, after Hurricane Sandy, and I didn't represent you at the time, I represented the East Shore of Staten Island, which was devastated by Hurricane Sandy. That was my assembly district. And those FEMA funds came in very handy in terms of mitigation programs. Obviously, the extent of the damage here is not as much as it was during Hurricane Sandy, where people lost their entire homes and they needed to rebuild from scratch. but infrastructure funds are very important to the solution, particularly for long-term drainage and resiliency and dealing with future storms and sewage issues as we are today. And then the small business, many small businesses, and I haven't heard from many small businesses yet that have been directly impacted, but I know that they're out there. And so another aspect of this would be small business and disaster assistance loans that we're very familiar with those businesses that were in the East Shore during Hurricane Sandy. And then lastly is that homeowners aid, which is what everyone here is hoping will be included. And that would be help for those who are uninsured or underinsured, those who had vehicle damage, which I understand everybody on the block had, personal property, anything that was maybe not covered by your insurance. This could help supplement that. It's not meant to take the place of insurance to make you whole, but it will help provide some relief in this process. So, in general, you should know that the individual and household program being part of a declaration is generally rare. It's not always included, which is why it's so important that we're here right now advocating for that and ensuring that our governor does include that in their request. And it could mean up to $33,000 for a household to provide some relief with the repairs and any replacements that may have not been covered by insurance. One of the important things I want people to do, and I'm sure you've been doing it already, is it's so incredibly important for you to document everything. Okay, so photos, videos. If you have like carpet that was ruined, keep a piece of it. Don't throw it all away. Drapes, keep some of it, whatever you can, just as samples. Make sure you're taking those photos. Make sure you're taking those videos, and hold on to them because it's going to be incredibly important throughout this process. Now, if you should be filing a claim with your insurance company. Okay, maybe different. I know here in this neighborhood there was some sewer backups. And issues like that, so that would be your homeowner's insurance. But nonetheless, whatever it is, you have to apply for you have to apply through your insurance carrier first before you can get any type of FEMA assistance. So you're applying for that first. Once you are denied, if you are denied, that's when we move on to the other process. So that's what everyone should be focused on right now, making sure you document everything, save all the paperwork, save all the communications. If you get a declination from your insurance company, you have to save that as well, and that's where we'll be moving on. So the purpose of today is twofold. One, to call on the governor to include that individual and households program in the declaration request from the President of the United States. Two, to make sure that the President immediately grants that request grants that declaration upon request. And third is to prepare all your documents and everything that you need as we're moving forward in this process. I want to turn it over to the councilman to talk a little bit from the city's perspective. We just got off a phone on the phone with the New York City Office of Emergency Management. He can give you a little bit of an update on that front and what else.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and thank you for being a partner and for doing the right thing and reaching out to our city and state partners on our behalf.
If you guys have good
Question.
optics,
I don't think we're doing that right now, but shoot. Why don't we just wait till we're all done, and then we'll do questions from anybody afterwards? Yeah. So I arrived here on this block just a few minutes ago, and really was shocked to see how many actually smiling faces and enthused faces I saw, which kind of sounds odd. Last night, we know we had a tremendous response from our civil servants and from our first responders, the FDNY. Sir, I know you were upset you didn't mention them, but we'll of course mention them. Today, out here this morning, we see what Staten Islanders do best. It's neighbors helping neighbors. I know I don't have to ask any of you guys if you checked on your elderly neighbors, because I already know you did. I already know you're sharing pumps and you're sharing hoses and sharing food and sharing whatever resources you have. That's the great thing about living in a neighborhood like this, in a borough like this. That was the sign of the second phase. Tomorrow, we need a different type of help. We need from the federal government, we need an army of pencil pushers and bean counters. We don't need the people to come out and muck out our basement. That's where you guys come in. We need the people to come in from FEMA, from the National Flood Insurance Program, and start processing claims as quick as possible to restore you guys financially as soon as possible. So if Joe Biden's listening right now, that's the help we need. Help us out, Joe. Send in the caseworkers, send in the insurance adjusters, send in the FEMA folks. We need to get these claims processed and on their way out the door and checks in people's hands as soon as possible. I'll turn it back over to Nicole. Thank you.
Deputy Borough President Eddie Burke.
Thank you, Congressman. You know, I was speaking to a resident who lives not far from here earlier today, and he said, looking at his family and looking at the damage, he could cry. And, and that brings home to everybody here the human element of this. These are your homes and your families that we're talking about. So I appreciate, on behalf of Borough President Otto, being here to echo what the Congresswoman and Councilman said. It's very important that you document damage that has occurred to you, and get that disaster declaration, get resources to you. This is all about rebuilding. This is all about moving on from this as soon as you can, and looking ahead to how we are more prepared in terms of infrastructure on Staten Island, because if we're going to continue to be getting storms like this, we're going to have some long-term solutions in addition to short-term solutions, as the Borough President always said. We need storm sewers, blue belts, natural areas, all those things that add up to having neighborhoods that are able to be resilient in these cases. So we're here to help you, to listen to you, and I thank the Congressman for inviting us. Thank you.
David Carr, representing Councilman Mattio's office. I would love for him to talk a little bit about some of the other steps that you should be taking to cover yourself and ensuring that you're alerting the local authorities, because that communication, that documentation will come in handy later on when you are filing claims.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you for organizing this event. There's that old expression, walk a mile in my shoes. The folks who are going to be doing the assessment for the governor's office and the president's emergency declaration don't need to walk that far. They only need to walk a block in your shoes to know that you guys are deserving of the individual and homeowners assistance that the Congresswoman was talking about. And I'm so glad that we could join together with you and the community and other elected leaders to make that call so clear for those who have the ability to make it. I also want to express on behalf of Councilmember Mattio his gratitude to the civil servants, his emergency responders, in particular the NYPD, who at his urging responded to a distressed person and was able to rescue them from their home in this neighborhood last night. In terms of what the Congresswoman was talking about, I think you're going to hear a consistent theme from all of us, which is document, document, document everything that you see that is damaged and that you would like to be reimbursed for. In addition to your insurance claims, in addition to the FEMA disaster assistance we hope that you'll be able to qualify for, you could also try making a claim for the city for any sewage backups that may have occurred, that may have damaged your personal property. You can make those claims through the New York City Comptroller's office. You can do it online. You could do it through a form that you can send in the mail. It obviously helps when you're doing this process multiple times with multiple claims, where you're able to make sure that you've left no stone unturned when it comes to trying to get as much assistance as you can, whether it be from the federal government, from the city, or your insurance company. So we'll always be able to help you with that. You may not always be successful in your claim, but again, you want to make sure that you preserve your right to try to get as much as you can in order to be whole at the end of this process. So I'm grateful that all of you have made it through this disaster so far. We're going to be with you in the days and weeks ahead. And again, I thank the Congresswoman for putting us all together so that we could be clear in our united call for this assistance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. With regards to he mentioned the New York City Controller, because a lot of this may be due to backups from the sewer, or there wasn't enough drainage issues. So all of you should fill that out too. So you would do your insurance company, you would do the controller claim, which is available on my Facebook page. I posted it a little while ago. But you can call any of the local offices and they can give you the website to do that. And make sure you, of course, save copies of that before you submit it. And you should notify us too if you are submitting it, because we can maybe help, follow up. And so definitely at least the city council members or myself. And then, of course, the state, I want to bring Michael Tanusis, who replaced me in the state assembly. He's doing a good job. Not as good as I was, too, but but he's doing a good job. But he just came back from Albany. We're glad he rushed right here from his trip.
Thank you. I pretty much just want to reiterate what everyone has said. Basically, you know, in addition to being in the Assembly, I'm also an attorney, and I will advise you that you have to document everything, exhaust every avenue, file the comptroller's form with the city. We'll, on our end, we've been in touch, obviously, as you know, with the governor's office. Been in touch, obviously, with the federal government as well. I'm happy that the governor was able to declare it a state of emergency, and we're calling hopefully now for the federal government to step in. And obviously, we are calling on the governor to include individual and household program within this declaration. You know, everyone here obviously remembers back at Hurricane Sandy how much devastation it wreaked on this island, and we certainly don't want to see anything like that again. We obviously have an issue with the infrastructure with regards to the sewer system here, and that's something that has to be looked at to ensure that we better our quality of life. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, everyone. I see the Advance is here. Does the Advance have any questions?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I know the governor said President Biden, you know, he's offered all his assistance available. You know, I just want to get a sense of how quickly you'd like to see that come through and what you're hoping for generally.
Well, we want it to come through as quickly as possible. I think the most important thing at this moment is to convey to the governor, which we have done and we are doing at this event, that the individual and housing program must be included, because sometimes the individuals and households program is added on later on. So if we can get it in this initial request, it would be much better and move things along quicker for those who have been impacted. And so I know that the governor is doing her due diligence today and has been traveling around the downstate region. She was in Queens. Now she was in Long Island. She's surveying her own damage. We just want to make sure she knows that here in Staten Island, we have significant damage. And I went inside people's homes, and you saw I saw the videos as well that I was sent, and it was significant. People's whole basements were flooded because of sewer backups, and the water was rising up the staircases. And, you know, this house right here, actually, I went inside and on the first floor, not even the basement, the first floor, you saw water still up to maybe here, up to my waist. That was where the line was. So it's significant, the damage that occurred here. And as you drove around, I'm sure you saw cars just left on the side of the road because of the impact as well. So I just want to communicate that it is critically important that Richmond County is included, which we know they will be. I've already gotten that assurance. But in addition to that, that the individuals and households program is part of that initial request, because that would make things go a lot quicker than if they just do a general emergency declaration, which would make the city and the state whole, and then come back later on to try to find assistance for these individual households. So I thank you, Paul, for coming, and I appreciate your coverage. And I'm going to wrap up now. Happy to stay, and I know some of you have some questions. My staff is here as well, and we'll, all of us are happy to speak to you one-on-one if you want to talk.